Conrad, did you make it back home safely?
Made it back home. I am still a little bit Scotch addled, and I have had way too much music. I feel like I've been in a nightclub for 48 hours straight, but it was a great time. It was a great time in Atlanta. Chris put on a great show. I thought the speakers were outstanding. Ivan, it was great to see you.
It was great to see you. Great to hang. Congrats to Michael and the Chris team for putting on a tremendous Game Changers Summit. What else are we talking about today?
So we're going to skip the news. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to go deep into a website teardown of Paul Robinson, our new favorite lawyer out of Raleigh and somewhat in Raleigh, who asked for some feedback. And boy, oh boy, have we delivered. This is the third episode that we've gone deep on Paul Robinson.
Hit it.
Welcome to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing, teaching you how to promote, market, and make fat stacks for your legal practice. Here on Legal Talk Network.
So as Conrad mentioned, we are super grateful for Paul Robinson volunteering to have us do a teardown of his website. And we wanted to go even deeper than that and really look at from the entire journey from having someone find the website and then what they find there. And so that's what we're going to dive into today. And again, the purpose of this is not to bash Paul's website. It's not to bash the law profession. It's to help everybody get better and to see the blind spots that you might not even know that you have. This is a Google search result for Paul Robinson Law Raleigh. And I think it's important to start here before we get into the teardown or I've been calling it an audit. I think it's a more constructive or a diagnostic is really what this is. It's the type of thing.
Gentler.
Well, it's the type of thing that you and I do all the time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we do, right? We take a look and say, hey, look, how can we assist you and improve your web presence? And so the point here is to show folks that, like, number one, so this would be what people would call a brand search query. Okay. So Paul, and you see his website is ranking. We're going to dive into his website. You can see his Google business profile, one box there on the right. He's got it highlighting his reviews. He's open 24 hours. Those are things that we like to see. What else do you see, Conrad?
There's a lot on here that I think is interesting. Number one, his Google business profile isn't claimed. So see down there where it says own this business. This is not being managed. And that's a concern.
It's interesting though, because I see that, and I make that call too. And then you see there some products have been filled out on this profile. And it looks like some posts have been entered. So at some point, maybe this was claimed and then unclaimed.
Someone did. So here, this is one of these things that you and I find all the time. Mm-hmm. Something doesn't make sense. That is true. Finding out what happened in the past and why, fool's errand. What I know right now is this profile is not claimed, which is really problematic.
He's responded to some Q&A here. Yeah. That's good. We like to see that.
It's weird. Why has this been opened up? So I don't know what's going on here, but that's something that I would immediately change. Number two, and I think the interesting thing with Paul Robinson specifically, I think there are thousands and thousands and thousands of Paul Robinson law firms in the United States, and lots of you fall into this category. And from our earlier episode, one of the things that we talked about is Paul is not in Raleigh, North Carolina. He has an office in Raleigh, North Carolina, but his real office is in Clayton. Okay. Paul is a 2-lawyer firm. He has, in this Raleigh office, he has 38 Google reviews. And what you'll notice on the title tag of his homepage, which is a really important page, he doesn't mention Raleigh. He doesn't mention Clayton. He mentions North Carolina. So he's trying to win the top personal injury lawyer in North Carolina. That's gonna be tough.
I mean, he does have it in his meta description.
It's in the meta.
Raleigh,
It's coming out here, but like from a pure.
Yeah, I hear you.
There's a, and the reason I say there are thousands of Paul Robinsons out there. So I've seen this pattern repeated over and over again. We're a smaller firm. We're outside of the major city. We're going to compete in the big city. Paul, and I don't know this because we haven't looked at the analytics. We haven't looked at the data, but this came out in our first round of the Paul Robinson review. I don't think he's winning in Raleigh. He's not winning in local search. I don't think he's winning as the top personal injury lawyer in North Carolina. I don't think that's winnable for Paul Robinson. And so for me, the geographic focus on this is in an area, it's either in Raleigh, right? And I know your query was for Raleigh, which might be why Raleigh is showing up here.
It is. I can tell you that as I was doing the research for this, yes, this exact problem happened. There are lots of different Paul Robinson laws.
Sure.
There's a lot. Paul Robinson attorney as a brand search populates all sorts of different things. And in fact, where I am in Michigan, there's Paul Robinson law firms, and so that's why I modified it with Raleigh.
Okay, which is fair. But my point being, strategically, why are you playing in Raleigh? It's a bigger population. There's better people, blah, blah, blah. You're not going to win the local game, and you're not going to win the search game. And well,
I'm going to qualify with this. Okay. As you mentioned, two-person firm. Again, I don't want to be presumptuous. I would say that if you're going to play in Raleigh, you're going to need to make much more significant investment to compete in Raleigh.
And why do you say that, Guy?
Well, I mean, the reviews in general, the first step is the reviews. Okay. If you're going to be in local search in Raleigh, like, you better find a way to really get after those reviews, whether that's going through, maybe you have an existing client list that you can try to get some people to leave a review. Maybe you've got some other ways to generate more reviews. But even if you show up organically for non-brand queries in Raleigh, in your ranking, like, these other firms have hundreds of reviews. You've got 38. Not to mention that, all the other stuff that's going to go into actually showing up, backlinks, so content, all that stuff.
Open up. So you're Guy, you're right. Open up a backlinks profile. Let's grab Ahrefs, for example. And when you run Ahrefs, just so you don't have to sit here mindlessly while Guy runs this Ahrefs, you'll see that, and I know you hate the domain rank number, but this one, it makes it so obvious that this is not going to work in Raleigh. They're at 0.9 when I ran Ahrefs for Paul Robinson Law. Do you
have linking root domain count?
I don't have this because I'm looking at a static image right now. I did a little pre-research on my own here.
Okay, fair. Okay. But that's a good point, that this is one of the things that we look at is how competitive this is what I look at is how competitive are you on linking root domains versus the competitors who are actually ranking both in the local pack as well as traditional organic.
So and this is just a foundational asset with 38 reviews and essentially 0 domain rank. You're not going to play in Raleigh, right? And so
it's going to be tough.
I just don't want, and a lot of your content is focused on a place that you can't win, right? You're just not going to win. So for me, and there's so many, I've seen this pattern over and over and over again. This looks to me like the site is the intention of the site is for vetting Paul. It's not generating new incremental business by and large. If you run SEMrush, you'll find that the vast majority of the terms for which this site ranks are branded terms, which is fine.
Yep.
But recognize that this is not driving incremental business from local search in Raleigh. It may be working in Clayton, and it probably is. Now, is it a ton? No, but like, can they win in Clayton? Yeah. So play where you can win, baby.
Yep. 32 referring domains in Ahrefs. So again, competitors are having hundreds, if not thousands, of the top competitors. A couple other quick points from me. One is that they do get the categorization right, so they've got the most specific category. They're not using UTM parameters to track website clicks from Google Business Profile. So that's one thing that I would check. And we're gonna because we're gonna click through to the site. And we're gonna talk about this in the context of the attribution as part of the phone call in a later episode. I see a phone number in a meta description over here that matches the phone number over here. I'm going to, as we click through, we'll verify this, but 065, my hunch is that's the real number. There's no tracking number in the Google Business Profile, so you're not getting any data from your direct calls from Google Business Profile. And I'm curious your thoughts on this, Conrad, in light of the kind of validation on user click-through and behavior. We've been saying don't use phone numbers in meta descriptions because you'd rather command the click than have somebody call from a meta description without the click. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but
I have no empirical evidence to show either way. My knee jerk is if they want to call you, it's not like they're not going to call you because they weren't able to find the phone number outside of your meta description.
Well, and it's showing up in your Google Business Profile.
This is my
point.
It's right there.
Yeah.
So if they want to call you, it's not like that is obfuscated. It was actually interesting that you pulled this up when we played the role play on what to ask your agency. One of the things that we talked about, and this is really important. So Guy and I have just shit on this profile. Okay. So let's call that out for what it is. We've just given you a bunch of theory. What we have not validated is whether or not reality and theory are aligned. It's possible that this profile is doing great. It's possible that you're generating a bunch of inbound calls from this Google Business Profile number. It's possible.
We'll never know because you're not tracking it.
But we'll never know because you're not tracking it. And so if you go back to that original episode, what we said was, this is what we think, but don't do anything until you validated that what the theory says and what the practice are align. And so I think that's
rely on your own data.
Rely on the data, because sometimes I see stuff and I'm like, that should not work or that should work. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why. And if it's working, leave it alone. Don't touch it. Don't rock the boat. And if it's not working and you can't figure out, like, that's where you start. But like, don't rely on people like us talking at conferences to make us ourselves sound smart without looking at your own data. That is such an important step that we miss so frequently, and it drives me nuts.
So I'm just going to click through from the Google Business Profile just to demonstrate that. We wouldn't know the difference between whether someone clicked here or clicked here, but in Google Analytics and Search Console, this should fire a organic visit. And so here we are at the website. And first thing I noticed that, oh, yes, there is a different phone number in the primary call to action. And I was going down to see if the local number was hard-coded at the bottom because I'm very curious about what's going on with the call tracking. But it does seem that there's some call tracking, and we could look at source code. We're not going to do that now because of the benefit of the viewers, but we would look at the source code to see if it was doing a dynamic number insertion or a number swap. Again, for me, ideally, you're using something like CallRail to do dynamic number insertion so that you can track phone calls at the session level back to their source. So there's some call tracking going on. That's good. What else do you see, Conrad?
Well, one of my favorite tools, we've talked about this before, is the site colon search. And that will give you a list of index pages that Google knows about. And when you do that, what you'll find is they're using the practice area plus Micro-Geo Strategy for this. And again, I'm going back to my theory perspective that I don't know that a single page on an otherwise weak website is going to rank outside of where your office is because you've put up a page that says personal injury lawyer Garner, personal injury lawyer Wilson, personal injury lawyer Wendell, personal injury lawyer Nightingale, personal injury. Like, I don't know that is going to work. I suspect that it is not. But this is a strategy that has worked. But I think this requires a much stronger backlink profile and really, really well-written content on each of these pages. Neither of those is the case. So again, I'm giving you theory. I'd want to validate the theory, whether or not this is actually generating any traffic. SEMrush tells me it's not for any of these queries. The ranking for these types of queries is down in the, page 2 at best kind of thing. But that's what I would want to look at. How's it ranking, and is there any traffic at all?
And on the spot check, just to validate that he's not showing up anyway. So there are firms that are employing the strategy, but they're not. It's not Paul's.
So this is a great example of where the same tactic will not work the same way for every firm. And again, I hate the SEOs who try and make themselves look smart by suggesting you can do this because I did that same thing for this client and it worked for them, and you just have to plug and play because it's different. It's foundationally different. And so
they're running a playbook, right? There's no actual critical analysis of anything. It's just like, this is what we do, right?
And so at the worst level, it's like, this worked once, I'm just going to deploy it everywhere, right? And so you have to be thinking about this. So I suspect that, and you've just validated that their whole content strategy for Paul Robinson is not working, right? And someone probably heard that this was a good idea at a conference.
Yep. Couple other observations from a conversion standpoint. They do have some primary call to actions. They have free case evaluation by the phone number. I'm not in love with the way that the phone number is being rendered up there, but it is a clickable button. So, if we're doing that on mobile, I'm sure that's a mobile click to call. It's got a form, so you're giving people multiple options. It's also got live chat, which will expand. The other positive thing is that, at least in this experience, the live chat is not doing a annoying interstitial. It's on asking for it or on click. So there you go. Pops open the chat interface. It's not like blocking out everything. You've also got the widget down here. So from a conversion standpoint, you're giving visitors options to contact you. You're communicating that there's a free case evaluation. You are calling out some of the major, personal injury law firm and making it clear that you handle personal injuries and listing some of the types. So I would say that a lot of the kind of 30,000 foot high notes on conversion are being hit here.
Okay. I like that. I think that's very, very fair. Here we've got, so this is, again, you can see Paul. This is the Paul with the Raleigh skyline in the background. I think it's just another example of where you're kind of fishing. You're playing in a league that it's going to be difficult to win. I'd rather see you own where you are, which is Clayton. Scroll down again there. Yeah, so we've got Cary, Clayton, and across, good gravy, right? There's 4 different. Those are big markets, right?
Yeah, I think the other thing that I'd be critical on the imagery, I like that he's using a picture of himself. I think that's good. I get that you want to do some kind of geographic tie-in, but I'd like to see a little bit more, something a little more authentically Paul.
Okay.
Maybe, whether he's maybe whatever if he's got an interest or some kind of affinity, I'd bake that into the imagery as opposed to just the generic city. And certainly I don't love standing in front of law books.
No, we've made fun of that a lot.
Yeah. And again, this is very cursory. We could do a much deeper dive. This is cursory diagnostic auditing. I haven't spent the time to read all of the details of the copy. My hunch is there's some things that you can improve on there, but he is talking about answering phone calls, returning emails, so you aren't left wondering about the status of your case. I think that's a good thing. I'd like to know a little bit more about putting the client at the center of this. I'd like to see more. If you've got clients that are singing your praises, or clients that have maybe you have a video testimonial of a client that's talking about how much you've helped them. This feels a lot about Paul and not so much about Paul's clients.
I interestingly, I did find a page in Spanish. It's only one page, but this could serve as a landing page. It's fully multilingual. It's not, it hasn't left things with like an English nav and a Spanish content. So I did find that. which I thought was fascinating. The other thing, Guy, that I did, which I think everyone should do on the regular, because you'll always find something stupid, although in this case I didn't. Run this through Screaming Frog, baby. Find some 200 errors. So find some 404 errors, or validate that everything is showing up 200. And when we did that, it was clean. So the 404 that's one of that's probably one of your favorite things to do. It's one of my favorite things when I'm talking to a new client. It's like, hey, by the way, Murphy, I just noticed that this page of your bio is returning a 404 broken error. So that's something that I always like to check in on as well.
For sure. Redirect chains, missing H1s, missing titles. I don't know if you've got more from the Screaming Frog report, but from a technical standpoint, Screaming Frog is amazing to identify some of those like really low-hanging fruit things that we see all the time. You know, the firm logo is the H1 on the page. Like
that's a common one, right?
Layups. Yeah,
I think we did that recently with something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So a clean bill of health through there, I think that's important.
It is. Another thing, just kind of going down this page, you know, I don't love the generic practice area imagery. Again, any time for me, every time that we see stock, I'm trying to represent or trying to achieve the site objective in a different way than with stock imagery. I understand, you know, there's budget constraints and, you know, having custom design versus a more templatized design, and all that stuff comes into play. So again, I'm not trying to be critical here. I'm just trying to make an observation of like something that I might work on improving is finding ways to depict your practice areas that aren't including this stock imagery. I mean,
you want to give an example?
Well, I personally, I don't think that you need all of these different practice areas laid out like this.
Okay.
In my opinion, I think you can accomplish that through navigation. You're already doing it up here, right? You've said it a couple times what you do, because again, I think of the Matt Homan haiku of what you do, and so you need to be concise. Like clearly you want to communicate how you help and why you're uniquely qualified to help. And again, I don't see a lot of the uniquely qualified to help part. I see the what you do, which is important, but okay, they get it. You help people that have been injured in an accident. I don't know that we need all this. I mean, most of the time, you know what this is for? This is SEO stuff, right? Because they're trying to pick up on those practice area page traffic things. And I'm like, you don't really need to do that. And I know that's a very common practice. And like I said, budgetary constraints, but I'd turn the focus back. Like this to me is a place to be having client testimonials, maybe a client video, some of these things that like, you know, they're going to start to communicate the why. Like, why do people hire Paul? Like, what does Paul do that's unique? How does Paul help clients that other firms can't? How can we start to do more positioning for our firm versus like, oh, you got a car accident section, motorcycle accident section, like every other lawyer has on their website.
Okay. Let me ask you one other thing that I noticed that's just a little silly. Why is there home in the primary navigation?
You know, because the template came with home. I hear what you're saying. Because you can make, so what Conrad's saying is that you can have global home navigation with the logo. You know, usability wise, like, yeah, I hear you. It's certainly, at least in this rendering, you know, it's making the
that's my point, right? It's right. It's turning your primary nav into two layers, which now it looks
you
like
don't want that
home contact.
Yeah.
And it's exacerbated by at the top. I think it's exacerbated by the size of the width of the logo. So really the aspect ratio of the logo, as well as the free case evaluation, right? Both of those things are exacerbating the primary nav. Now we're getting to minor usability nits, but you know.
Yeah, no, I think this is just auditing and observational, and it's just good stuff to know. And also, I don't even know what the aspect ratio is of this share. So maybe it renders, you know, it's my hunch is that, in fact, we should probably check. I didn't even check to see if it was responsive, but my hunch is that it probably is.
Yeah.
I can do that in a new tab in 1 second. So anyway, coming down here, why do I need a personal injury lawyer? You know, again, this just strikes me as doesn't help. It's not helping to position Paul, not helping Paul stand out. I do like seeing some FAQ, right? Now, we could talk about how these are in accordions versus other ways to render the FAQs. And I didn't check on markup on this, although I believe currently Google has deprecated FAQ in the results, but they go back and forth on that. So I think there's some things to think about with the FAQs. But the FAQs, this is the first time that we're really like talking about the client. Like, what should I do after an accident? How do I know if I have a claim? Like, we're starting to put ourselves in like these are some of the questions that the potential client might have, and I think it's good to be answering those.
Okay, I just in the chat sent you a link. Why don't you click on that?
Oh, okay.
Always dangerous when done live.
Very dangerous. This is done.
Please
totally
open this photo
out of nowhere.
There you go. Here's the first blog post from 1970.
Okay. So been around longer than 2 years.
These are the little types of pages that you want to try and find and kill.
Did you check to see if this was indexed? So this is
indexed.
indexed.
Yeah, that's how I found it.
Yeah. So this is a just technical hygiene type of thing. That's you want somebody to be on top of that. Yeah, and that certainly shouldn't be indexed. So a good point there. Okay, we got testimonials. So this is great. I'd move these up higher on the page. I think we've already scrolled down here. I think this needs to be a little bit more primary. And then we've got some videos. Again, this kind of stock footage stuff, not in love with it. It's probably better ways to do it. But good note here. We got Paul on video answering questions. Now, again, I don't know if I would do it in front of law books, but I love this because it's going to humanize Paul. He's going to get a sense of it. This to me too is a place for you to do the why I practice law. Hey, introduce yourself. Hey, I'm Paul. This is why I do this. This is who I help, how I help them, and why I believe that I'm uniquely qualified to help. And he's doing some FAQs answering in here. I think that's a positive thing.
So let me knit on this because I you are correct. Let me make a couple of suggestions on how to make this better. One of the things that I don't like about the logo on the website is we already talked about, it's kind of wide. It is short and fat. And it's actually made worse because they put a tagline underneath it. The tagline doesn't show up here, but it's a very fuzzy use of the logo, right? I would love to see the logo as a visual logo and no words. Paul Robinson Law, just get rid of that. Have the consistency of that logo. And I'm looking at my own screen, and I'm telling you to do what I do. So take that for what it is. Get rid of the books in the background. Throw your logo in the background, and just keep that logo in front of people. A simple visual logo in front of people over time. I would love to see that. And what the problem with the books is, you end up with this a background that has multiple colors, and you end up needing to put this black on white text that goes on top of the background. It just starts to look goofy. If you just use a very plain wall with your logo on it, you solve that problem. It's a small thing.
Yeah, no, it's some good design feedback. All right, news and blog.
Okay, is this the best blog you've ever read?
What do you think about news and blog there, Conrad?
Well, from a pure content strategy perspective, I suspect that this blog is doing nothing. And I suspect the reason that there are 10 pages of blog content. 10 pages. I don't mean 10 pages of lists of blog content. I mean 10 pages of blog content, one of which was that error that we found earlier. I don't think this stuff's doing anything. I think this was published because someone said either
you need blog posts.
You need blog posts because Google likes blog posts. And someone heard that and said, okay, well, we can do blog posts. That's actually the only reason I can come up with.
Conrad, tell the good people what you would do to assess whether or not this was doing anything.
I would look for one of two things, and ideally both. Number one, I would look to see if there was any traffic to any of these blog pages. And I'm fairly certain there is not. And ideally, if there is traffic, I would validate whether or not people that came in on that page are in North Carolina, for starters. And they're probably not. But if I'm wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong on these things, I would really want to know, did people who came in on that page from North Carolina call the firm? And all of that data you can discover. But I'm pretty sure that nothing is happening for these pages. So I'd look for traffic. If you cannot find traffic, maybe it was a brilliant article about the weather in Raleigh, North Carolina. How do weather conditions affect car accident claims? Maybe it was a brilliant article and it was cited by Duke University and they linked out to that. I don't care if no one has looked at this page in 27 years since that first blog post was not published. I would keep that link. I would keep that page up and I would keep that link. So those are the two things I'm looking for.
Those are great. So traffic, you mentioned if it's any converting traffic, and I would add in there, not necessarily just to potential client, but maybe if you're using content as a subscription vehicle to get someone to sign up to get long-term drip, that's fine. Links, I'm totally with you. The other thing that was implicit in your traffic thing, but I think for folks that might not be obvious, check to see if it's indexed. You're not going to get any traffic from Google is not indexed. Now this one is indexed, so that's positive. But how many times do we come to blog pages that Google's not even indexing? They don't even want to keep that stuff in the index. That's totally wasted. You're never going to get traffic. You're never going to get conversion. And even if you had a link to that page, it's probably not doing much for you.
Totally agree.
Okay. As we keep coming down here, we got hours of operation. I think that's. I think they didn't he have. I thought he had map embed somewhere.
Location pages.
Maybe it's at the bottom. Well, I could have sworn it was on the homepage too. Oh yeah, so it's in. So this is part of the. It's part of the theme template. I'd probably maybe think about putting these a little higher up because again, you've got, the map embeds are great because they contain so much great, rich information, including reviews, address, yada yada yada, and then maybe you don't need so much of this stuff. Kind of being hypercritical here. I don't love the layout of all this. And
or having a fax
now
machine.
Notice, yeah. Well, lawyers still fax each other, so that's that.
Can you scroll down again because I think it just exposed something that I really like. Keep going. Here's the review count, and this is the next step. Here's the review count for each of his offices. Clayton, North Carolina. Now, if I remember correctly, Clayton is southwest of downtown Raleigh, if I remember correctly. And okay, not that far. But my point being, I want to see a local Falcon scan of Clayton. What's his opportunity here? Like this is where I see opportunity for Paul. What is the opportunity here, and how can we build this out? This is where there's a chance that this website is generating incremental business for Paul, and it's probably the only place, the only channel that would work for him.
Yep, absolutely. I think those are good points. I was going to get into, I don't know if it's worth getting. The other thing that I would check here is a structured data markup, just to see if they've got that in place. But I think that might be visually too disruptive for our purposes here. I see some social links. I get that I wonder, we're not going to assess social on this, but I'd be curious to see how many people are actually clicking on the Facebook and Instagram link on the homepage to go through. I'm not so sure. But again, that's kind of like one of those things where best practice includes your social links on your homepage. Just something that just an observation. Yep. So you got service area lists, all the different cities. You've got the legal services here. Did you notice anything in Screaming Frog about site architecture? Like, are these? It's a pretty flat site.
It's so small it doesn't really register.
Okay. Let's just click into the car accident page. So this is kind of interesting. Here you've got the car accident, and you got the sub Durham. So this looks like it's notice that that's not a subdirectory. So this is being. So the structure here, Conrad's probably right. It doesn't matter that much because it's a small site. But this is legal services car accident is this car accident practice area page, and then Durham car accident attorney, which is a sub in the menu, does not actually a sub of the car accident page. And so, this is classic SEO type of thing here. They're trying to pick up on this Durham car accident. And let's go back to Conrad's point. If you do a search for Durham car accident attorney, let's see what happens. Car accident attorney, if I can type here. Not to mention, one, you've got ads. Two, you've got local pack, which never going to rank there. Play. And then now down here, what do we got? So maybe the best firm that's trying to take advantage of this strategy is ranking below the local pack, and our Paul's not anywhere to be found on the first page for that. And so again, is that really the most effective use of that strategy? I don't know. I don't think so. Visually, go ahead.
No, go. I was going to
I was going to say visually here, I think there's all sorts of problems with text and contrast with the overlay. Also, we got scales of justice and suits. So again, I would try to get rid of this stock content.
And hammers.
This page,
we got all sorts. There's
hammers.
You got 3 things going on there. It is definitely a law firm.
Yeah,
can't figure it out.
This page should probably not exist at all, is the answer to that one. We've been very constructively critical on a lot of fronts here. Yeah. So we said all this long tail optimizing pages for cities. And so what would you do instead? Where would you deploy resources in a different way on the website? Or would you not deploy them on the website at all? Where would you start talking ads or something like that? So you're talking to Paul and you're like, look, this is what you're currently doing. This is what I'm currently seeing. Aside from just cleanup stuff, how would you reprioritize and recalibrate on marketing objectives here?
So I think what I would do, and I'm going to make the assumption that the SEMrush data on this is accurate. This is a vetting site. This is not a new business site. People are
right. It's a brochure.
It is a brochure for someone who has already learned about Paul, and that needs to be the priority of the site, right? Which sadly means there's not incremental business being generated from this. Okay. So I would really focus on making sure that when people come to this and having, car accident lawyer Kingsford and car accident lawyer Smithwicks or whatever the different cities are in North Carolina is not helping at all in that objective. I want this so much about Paul. And then I want to go deep. I want to win Clayton. I don't want to do anything until I'm winning Clayton. He's got a good review profile for it's not even I don't even what you call after tertiary. There you go.
Look, he's already winning. He's already winning.
This
Clayton.
Is my point. So I want to know what we can build from Clayton. And bluntly, I would give up on Raleigh and I would find the next hamlet,
next Clayton,
town, crossroads, and that I can win in and build an incremental business from there.
And here's another thing, just to kind of reiterate your point. So, we don't know for sure, but if he's not playing in local services ads, I would check out the economics of local services ads, especially for Clayton. He looks like he's winning in the local pack. And then to your point, also, if he re-optimizes his homepage, he's likely going to show up as the number 1 spot here for Clayton related searches, right?
Yep.
Or he's gonna improve it.
All right, check this out. This is a fascinating local Falcon scan. I've just put it in the chat. I don't know if you can pull it up.
I can.
Excellent. All right, look at that beauty. So,
yep. Talk to the people. Conrad.
This is absolutely reinforcing the theory that Guy and I have been talking about. Give up on Raleigh, dude. You're never going to win it. How can we expand Clayton? How can we go northeast and southwest? What is the town down here? I think it says Smithfield on the southeastern side outside of Clayton, where you lose once you go to and this is why I like these more concentrated local Falcon scans. You lose once you go outside of Wilson Mills. Well, okay. There's 95 crosses 70. I don't know. I can't see what the town is there. There's Pine Level and some Smithfield. There's your next office. Now I want to know who's there. what their review profile is, what the population looks like. But like right off the bat, and this is Centipede strategy in action, that's where I'm looking to win. It's Powhatan, right below that. What's there? What is that? You're not winning there. You're not going to win there with your current office. So can you win in that space by taking those 38 reviews in Raleigh and thunking them right there? Move your office. That's my read.
Love it.
Because there's incremental business to be won there. And like that's what we're talking about. It doesn't give, anyway.
Yeah, and I think again, it's for me, and as we're wrapping this up, it just comes down to like reprioritizing resources, right? Like the objective here shouldn't be like, let's go spend a ton of money to compete in Raleigh when we can spend more efficient time and money, whether it's opening up another close local office, investing in local services ads. And again, if you want to go compete in Raleigh, and especially, and we didn't talk about timeline, but if you're like, you're like, look, I want to be in Raleigh. Raleigh's like the audience. Then start talking ads. You better start talking ads. You better start talking other channels, because just investing more, if your sole resource deployment is, I'm going to go hire an SEO company to get me to try to rank in Raleigh, you're going to spend a lot of money. And I still think you're going to struggle because you don't have the volume of reviews.
And I'll tell you this. If you went to this would be, we did the pretend interviewing digital marketing agency. If you are Paul and you tell an agency that you want to move into Raleigh and they don't raise these issues, that is a terrible vendor. That is a terrible vendor. And it's a great way to find a good one. Tell them something stupid and that you have a big budget and see if they push back.
So again, positive. We're so grateful that Paul volunteered this. And next time we're going to take it a step further and actually give Paul's firm a ring so that we can get a sense of how Paul's handling intake, because there's probably some opportunity for improvement there. Thanks again, everybody, for dropping in on this episode of Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. If you just landed here, please do click that subscribe button. We'd love to hear from you. We love feedback, show topics, questions. Of course, we'd love a positive review from you if you're willing to do that. Otherwise, for Lunch Hour Legal Marketing, Guy and Conrad saying farewell.
Money makes a it makes a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round.